Thank you so much. So sorry for being a little quiet over there. So the question was, in Genesis 11, we find the Tower of Babel story where the flood occurred, and the Tower of Babel and how so much diversification came. So when it comes to the story of Noah and the flood, now theologians actually interpret this in two ways. Number one is what we call as the universal flood model. Universal flood model where the flood took place over the entire earth. Okay? So the whole world was flooded and therefore all life forms and everything became extinct except for those that were saved in Noah's ark. The second model is actually called as the localized flood model. Okay? The localized flood model, which means this flood actually could have taken place somewhere in the Middle East, in Noah's vicinity. So, if this was the case, then the diversity that we actually find in the world could actually be accounted for in scientific terms. So, a lot of people are actually still debating about this, whether it is universal or if it is a local flood. But nonetheless, even if this was a universal flood where the entire earth was actually drowned by this flood, how can we actually account for diversity? We actually have one scientific evidence that can actually account for this. A lot of conservational biologists, conservational biologists have done quite a remarkable research in this field. They've actually been trying to conserve almost endangered species, and when they've done this, and when they have started, the reproduction phase in these endangered species, what they actually found out was that the genetic diversity of these endangered species became so diverse in a very limited time. So that is why one reason that we can actually celebrate about this is because, the reproduction in animals is quite fast, and the diversity can actually be accounted for. But on a personal level, I actually like to believe that Noah's flood actually happened locally in the Middle East. Why? Because the purpose of the flood was actually not just to eliminate all of life on earth, but actually people who sinned against God. And that is why we actually find the Tower of Babel. Now, the Tower of Babel, one theologian by the name of Nongrum, he gave a very interesting exposition about this. He says, the people at Babel were united and they were civilized, but they were united for the wrong cause. They were united because they were against God and they wanted to challenge God. So that is actually very interesting. Now let me just get a little preachy and a little theological here. Are we united for the wrong reasons? So that is a question that we can actually take away. Now they were united for the wrong reasons. And what about the change in language, the diversification in language? Now what Genesis actually narrates to us is that at the Tower of Babel, God had to do something where people didn't understand themselves. Now, did this actually mean that the different semantic languages that we have now, it's a bit difficult to understand because we don't actually have the exact Hebrew words. We can't actually understand what God is actually trying to understand. But what it actually meant was God made something happen to the people of Babel so that they could not communicate with each other anymore. So that is why one interpretation actually goes like that. Do we have different languages after that? Anthropology tells us that as human beings go to different places around the country, different vicinities around the places, our language actually starts to differ. And for example, in the tribe that I belong to, the Mizo tribe, although we are located in a very small part of Northeast India, you will actually find the language diversification as we go from north, west, south, and east. Why? Because the culture changes. So that is why change of language is not a problem at all. So I hope that clarifies the question, and if the technology would like to